Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all keeping safe and well. This is my roundup for my birthday month of August, a little bit of September as well, because I thought I'd wait until the Paralympics were done. I've been really enjoying those, so thought I'd include the Olympics and Paralympics in this post and get that out of the way. But yeah, this is mainly about August. It's been a nice birthday month, busier than I expected it to be. Not as crazy as my 40th birthday last year, which I'm still really proud of, that I did so much there. That was an amazing 40th, but a bit calmer this year, but still pretty busy. I went to a few theatre shows, a couple of which were free because they were gifted to me by friends of mine, which was lovely of them, thank you. And I also went for a couple of meals with my friend Emily as well, for a couple of PR reviews that she was reporting on, but nothing sponsored to appear here in this video or my blog post that goes with it, in which there's more detail as per usual if you want to read more about any of the things I mentioned here. And the other nice thing to mention, indeed to start with, is that I had my PIP review decision back for my disability benefit, personal independence payments, which often gets misreported as a out of work benefit, which is not. I work, I get PIP. It's just to help with the added costs that having disability imposes on your daily living. I got my review back from that. I had filled in the form last year. This is how long it's taken for it to go through. I sent off like 20 pages of typed evidence to go with it, and medical record and support documentation, that kind of thing. And then that still wasn't enough for them. I had a 2-hour telephone assessment, like 2.25-hour telephone assessment a little while back, and then just over a month later they got back to me with their decision, and thankfully they're keeping me on the same rate for a slightly longer period, until like 2030, just to reassess me, which is pointless really. It'd be much better if they just did a lifetime award, and then I just tell them when I need the support, but it's up to them really. I can't really stop them. At least they're doing it for a bit longer now, so I can relax for a while, which is quite a relief. I'm very pleased by that. I'm very proud I did that kind of by myself, using advice that I'd had from my original application that I did. I did have someone working with me on my original application that I did, so I just copied a lot of the advice from them and just reworded stuff I'd written back then. And I've got advice online as well. The Benefit and Works website is a very good place to go, and obviously citizens advice and charities can help if you need it. And I knew, even doing it myself, if I did need to go to appeal, then I could go to places like that for extra assistance. So yeah, I was confident in doing that, and thankfully I think that confidence came across. They knew I was prepared to go to appeal and stuff like that. I recorded the telephone assessment, so I had a record of that too, as well as everything I'd sent off. So they couldn't really deny I'd said anything. They couldn't claim that I'd said anything I hadn't, or claim I didn't have the disability I claimed to have, anything like that. So I made it as watertight as possible, and it seems to have paid off. So yeah, that's good. I'm glad that's out of the way. But yeah, apart from that, it's just all the leisure stuff I've been doing, the theatre shows I've been to and the meals I've had and various bits and pieces I've been watching. As I said before, there's lots more detail in the blog post and all opinions of my own, etc., etc. So yeah, I hope you find things of interest in here as usual, and let's crack on with it. So the first theatre show I mentioned is the one that I paid for myself. This wasn't a gift, this was one I really wanted to see. And this was Stranger Things, The First Shadow, which is the prequel to the Stranger Things series on Netflix, which I really enjoy. And it's written by the same people, the Duffer Brothers, and they've really put a lot of effort into it. It's a great story, and there's amazing special effects in there. So it's really good. You can see it as a standalone show without having seen the series, but obviously it helps. Obviously you get a lot of the references that way if you have seen the series first, but you can enjoy it without it. It is still a good standalone story, and it may well tempt you to watch the Netflix series anyway. So yeah, this is set in 1959 when Joyce, Jim and Bob were at high school, along with Bob's sister Patty, and there's a shy and awkward new student called Henry who had a very dark secret, which if you know the series then you'll know what that is. But yeah, things develop during the show. It is an amazing experience. It lasts a long time, it's a good 3 hours, but it doesn't feel that long because there's so much going on. And there's a very immersive prologue at the very start of the show which kind of surprises you in a way that I won't say what it is, but it immediately sets the stall out for what's to come. And yeah, just from there, it is just very engaging. There's superb acting and great visuals and very clever use of lighting, and the music and sound is very atmospheric, and there's some scary moments, a few explosions, and yeah, some genuinely mind-blowing special effects. It is very impressive how they do some of that stuff. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and I can recommend it if you're a fan of the series. And indeed, if you're in America, it is actually coming to Broadway in March 2025, so that's something to look forward to over there in the States. And this was an audio described performance, so the show does get quite loud in places, but I was still able to turn the volume up loud enough to hear what the describers were saying, and it was really useful to have them because the show is quite dark visually as well as tonally, so there would have been a lot of details I'd have missed if it weren't for them. So it was pretty much essential for me to have AD for the show. And there was a touch tour beforehand as well, which was really good. We got to meet a few of the most important cast members, one playing Henry, one playing Dr. Brenner at the laboratory, and then also the guy playing the young Bob Newby. And that guy playing Bob, who was called Christopher Buckley, he was really cool because he actually hung around during the touch tour and showed us the radio equipment that Bob uses during the show, and all the little dials and things like that, and also little bits of paraphernalia related to it, like little comic books he's got and things like that. So it was really a lot of fun to chat to him. It was really nice of him to give up his time to do that. And I also got to see lots of beautiful costumes and handle those, including the chest and claw sections of the Demogorgon outfit, because that's the big monster, and get close up to some of the set pieces, including the lab and the diner and the desk from the police station and the high school lockers and bathroom and that kind of thing. So it was a really thorough touch tour. I really enjoyed it, and it really helped during the show. So yeah, that was a really good show. Stranger Things, The First Shadow. As I say, if you're a fan of the series, I can highly recommend it. If you don't know the series, it's worth a look. If you like things that kind of scary and tense and that kind of thing, and you like big special effects and that kind of stuff, then it's worth a look. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And then the next show I saw was the Hot Wing King at the National Theatre, or more specifically, the Dorfman Theatre around the back of the building, which is a smaller, more intimate venue, and it's very nice in there. And the show has just finished on the 14th of September, but if it comes up elsewhere, I can recommend going to see it because it is good fun. It is set in Memphis, Tennessee, and is about a guy called Cordell who is preparing to enter a big contest to see who makes the best hot chicken wings, hence the name, the Hot Wing King. And he's being helped and supported by his partner and some of his friends, but there are some other issues at hand that threaten to derail his chances of competing in that contest. So there's a lot of funny moments in there. It is a comedy at its heart. There's lots of great one-liners, and there's even a bit of like music and dance at one or two points in the show. But there's also kind of more dramatic moments as well, as we learn about the relationships between the different guys, and there's some little revelations about their backstories as well. So there's actually more layers to it than the word comedy implies, and it's very nicely written. And this was also an audio-described play, so we had a touch tour beforehand as well. We had the actors coming out on stage, all 6 of them, first of all, to introduce themselves and demonstrate the voices of their characters. And we also met our audio describer for the evening, an actress whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce, but she delivered the narration in a Mississippi accent, which helped to make it feel much more immersive. She was very good at that. And then we had the set described to us. It was like a house with its exterior walls removed, so you could sort of just see directly into the kitchen, and you could see a bedroom upstairs as well. And there was a fully furnished kind of living space behind a wall as well, which most of the audience couldn't see. Maybe if you're on the far left of the audience, because you were kind of on 3 sides of the stage, then you could see it. But most of the audience couldn't. It was the kitchen that was the focus, because obviously this is about food preparation. There was a little kind of backyard as well, just in front of that. And once the stage layout had been described to us, we then got to explore it ourselves. So the kitchen was obviously particularly interesting, being the focus of the show. Going into the pantry, for example, they actually had real spices and things in there, so there was a nice smell as soon as you opened the door, and the oven was real, and there was a real air fryer in there, and there was working taps and things. They did have cooked chicken during the show, which we got a slight whiff of, not as strong as I perhaps hoped it would be, but then maybe it would have been too hunger inducing if they had. But yeah, we didn't actually get to see any real chicken on the stage when we were doing the tour, obviously, but we got to see some of the prop chicken they used, before they were cooking it. And there was costumes I got to look at as well, which was really cool. And I got to see the living space, the furnished living space, which I would never have otherwise seen, which was quite nice to look at. And there's a piano in there, and yeah, it was just really nice to look around the whole stage. It was very detailed. There's a lot of detail that, again, the audience would not notice, but for the guys on stage, it helps it feel like a real environment. And yeah, it just all adds to the character of the piece and everything. So yeah, that was a very thorough touch tour and a very enjoyable one. And with the audio description during the show, it helped me to get the maximum possible enjoyment out of it and fully engage with it, as these things always do. So I'm very grateful for that. And I also want to give a special shout out to a member of staff there called Isabella as well, who was wonderful with me. She greeted me at the venue. She took me around on the touch tour, showed me where things were, described things to me. She made sure I got to my seat and was comfortable before the show started. She came to me during the interval and brought me things that I'd ordered. And then she kind of got lots of feedback from me along the way as well, including at the end of the show. So yeah, she was really, really nice, really, really helpful. So very big thanks to her. She was wonderful. And then the other show I saw was The Grapes of Wrath at the National Theatre. And this was at their main auditorium, the Littleton Theatre. And I went there with my friend Claire, who very kindly gifted this show to me for my birthday, so thank you to her for that. We didn't see the audio described performance because that was on a day we couldn't get to, but we didn't mind seeing it without it, and we didn't really need it on this occasion because we could follow the story well enough. There were only little bits we missed, but yeah, we had a good seat anyway with a good view, so we could see all the important things that were going on. But yeah, this play is based on a book by John Steinbeck, which I've never read, but it's a famous book, I know, and it's set in America during the Great Depression. and it's all about the Joad family who are forced to pack up and leave their home and drive all the way to California in the hope of a new life. And the first half of the play is all about their long and difficult journey to get there, and the second act shows the challenges and discrimination they face after getting there, because obviously lots of other people are looking for work as well, and it's not as kind of easy and as cosy as they thought it would be. And there were some tough decisions and some dangerous incidents and some heartbreaking losses along the way. But ultimately, it's a story about, the human spirit and determination, dreams and family, that kind of thing. So it is quite a positive and uplifting story in some ways, but there are definitely some very moving and thought-provoking moments in there, and some topics that still have a lot of relevance today, including things like migration and mental well-being and just the desperate need to earn a living that a lot of people have these days. So it is certainly topical in many ways still. It's very well acted as well, so you really engage with the characters and you feel the ups and downs that they experience along the way on their journey. There's a small group of musicians who play nice acoustics kind of with the scene transitions, and also they do a performance of their own in the second half as well. There's nice kind of lighting effects to kind of set the scene and things like that. And there's quite creative use of slow motion as well, which is impactful because you don't expect it to happen. So it really kind of emphasizes certain key moments. So yeah, it was another long play, about 3 hours long, but again, it didn't feel that long because, you were kind of engaged in the story, and it was quite interesting and thought-provoking and moving, as I say, and everything. So yeah, it was really good. I didn't know what I was going to make of it going into it, but yeah, I did enjoy it. So thank you to Claire for that. It was really good. So then moving on to food, and these are a couple of meals that I went to with my good friend and colleague Emily, because these were PR invites for her to write reviews of these different experiences. And the first one was at Korean Grill Kensington, which is just around the corner from Gloucester Road Tube Station. And I've never had Korean cuisine before, but this was certainly a big introduction to it, because we had their chef's feast menu, and they literally fill your table with food completely. Loads and loads of different kind of appetizers and sides and stuff like that. And then the star of the show is the meat itself, which is grilled in this kind of circular grate on the table in front of you, which is quite fun because you get to see the flames dancing up quite safely, of course. And you get to see the colour of the meat change, and you get to smell it as well, of course, and everything. And there's a nice bit of like ribeye steak they did, and their king kalbi dish, which is a diamond cut beef short rib marinated with a special sauce, and tiger prawns as well for those who like seafood. So you get all that to choose from, and you also get these great big lettuce leaves as well. So you can put a bit of meat in them and a bit of these kind of sides and things like that, and basically fold it over and eat it like a taco. It's that kind of thing. So that was quite cool. That was quite a fun, different experience. And there was a nice different mix of flavours there. And I was just picking things at random. They told us what was what, but we couldn't remember. There was so much of it. So we just went in randomly and tried everything, and it was all very nice. So we were really, really stuffed when we came out of there. I can say that for sure. But it was really nice. That was quite a unique and fun experience. And then the other meal we had was at Extet at the Yard, which is the Great Scotland Yard Hotel, just around the corner from the south side of Trafalgar Square. So again, very easy to get to. It's the first restaurant to be opened outside of Stockholm by Nicholas Extet, who's a Michelin-starred chef. And we had their 5-course tasting menu, where seasonal British ingredients are prepared using Scandinavian cooking techniques. And that was quite nice. That was quite different. The first course was a trilogy of small dishes, the most interesting of which was the oysters, because we got to go into the kitchen and see them being cooked under the flames. Every customer is invited into the kitchen to see this. It's not just us, but it was a really special experience. I've never had that before. I've never had oysters before either, but once the chef had added some sauce to them, he invited us to try them in front of him. So we just emptied them from the shells into our mouths, and yeah, they were quite nice. They're not the sort of thing I would just go into a restaurant and order deliberately. If there was a full menu, I probably wouldn't go for oysters, but to try something like that, try something new, it was very nice. So yeah, that was an interesting start to the meal. I enjoyed that. And then we also had some wood oven baked sourdough bread for the next course, with some butter that the server prepared in front of us by adding some smoked whey and pine oil to it. And that was very nice. I quite like the crispiness of the outside of the bread with the softness of the actual bread itself. So that was nice. The butter had a good flavour to it as well. And then the remaining 3 courses consisted of some hay-fried summer peas, pine smoked wild duck breast, and a mushroom souffle. The peas I wasn't so bothered about. They're all right, but nothing special for me. The duck breast was very nice, and that was good. And then the mushroom souffle does sound odd, but it's actually better than I expected it to be. It's an unusual combination, but it was all right. There was caviar in amongst that as well, accompanying the peas, which I've never had before. And again, it's not something I'd order deliberately, but something to try for the first time. It was okay. So yeah, it was a nice meal all in all. It wasn't a posh restaurant, as much as it may sound, with oyster and caviar and things. It was kind of very relaxed atmosphere. There was even music by like the Rolling Stones and Queen kind of playing in the background. And yeah, it was just very nice in there. And then sticking with the food theme, but moving on to films, Emily also recommended a film to me called The Menu, which is a comedy horror film from 2022. And it parodies the kind of food critics and things like that, because you get these people going to this quite unusual restaurant on a remote island, and the chef has very elaborate explanations for some of his increasingly strange courses. One course is basically nothing in effect, and yet these diners are kind of lapping it up enthusiastically because of the artistic way he presents it and the way he talks about it. We see it through the eyes of a lady called Margot, who's been dragged along there by her date called Tyler, and she can't understand why everyone's getting so obsessed with all this. But as the meal then progresses, it becomes apparent that there's actually a very darker undertone to it, and everyone's very much in danger. And it takes a little while for them to twig. Even when there's the first shocking twist, some of them are still kind of in denial about it and saying, "Oh no, this is still all part of the experience. It's great." But yeah, they soon come to realise that everything is much more horrifying than they expected it to be. So yeah, there are some funny moments, there are some scary moments and gory moments and things. It's not the most amazing comedy horror film out there by any means, but it's certainly a good way to kill a bit of time. Ralph Fiennes is great as the chef. He gives a great performance there. So yeah, that's an interesting film to look at. I'm glad Emily recommended that. It was worth a look. Another film that Emily recommended was then Coraline, which is a stop-motion animated film from 2009, based on a Neil Gaiman story from 2002. It is about an 11-year-old girl called Coraline, who is voiced by Dakota Fanning, who has moved to a new house with her parents, but becomes very bored of her new environment and the way her mother and father don't really seem to care about how she feels. And she meets some other characters in the local area as well. One called Wyborn, played by Robert Bailey Jr. A couple of nice old ladies, played by French and Saunders, which was a nice surprise to see them involved in the film. And an eccentric entertainer played by Ian McShane, but they still don't really relieve the tedium for her. But then she discovers this passageway behind a special door in the house that takes her to a parallel world, which seems to be perfect. She has what's called an other mother or another father in this world, alternate versions of her parents who basically give her everything she wants and dote over her lovingly and everything. But as perfect as everything is in some ways, it's not at all normal in others, because her other parents have buttons for eyes and they want to convert Coraline in the same way so that she can live with them forever. And Coraline doesn't want to take it that far. She refuses to stay. And at that point, it becomes apparent that her parents from this other world aren't so friendly after all, and things take a very dark turn after that. So if any parents are going in there with their kids, at that point in the film, it takes quite a dark and shocking turn. So it's not an animation for kids by any means. It does get quite scary in parts. And the animation is really impressive. It's kind of a Japanese-infused style of animation, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that it's CGI, but it's actually stop-motion animation, which is really impressive. It's really nicely done. A lot of work went into it, and that's illustrated in an exhibition about the Laker Animation Studio that produced the film, which is on the BFI South Bank until the 1st of October. It's a bit of a maze in that building, but it's worth kind of looking in there to find the exhibition if you like that kind of thing, because it's really thorough. It kind of looks at lots of characters, not just from that film, but some of their other productions as well. And Emily and I went to see that, which is why I saw the film, because she recommended it to me. So after we'd had our meal at Exeter at the Yard, we went across the river and saw this exhibition, because it stays open quite late. So we had a slot booked for like 9 p.m. and got there and had a good look around for about half hour. So yeah, that was nice. There was a lot of nice stuff there. It was really interesting to get an insight into how those kind of films are made. And then another film I watched was Mrs. Doubtfire. I saw the musical for this earlier in the year, so obviously it made sense to actually see the film at some point in August, seeing the logical time to do it, because it's 10 years since we lost the great Robin Williams, and quite how it's been that long, I've got no idea, and he's still very much missed. And yeah, it's just a classic family film, we all know it, I think. It's about a guy called Daniel who loses custody of his children, but then manages to get back into the family by pretending to be a lady called Mrs. Doubtfire and becoming the nanny, who becomes a hit with the children, but then the pretense of being a woman like that becomes harder and harder to kind of keep up, and obviously his real identity is eventually revealed. But yeah, there's a lot of great comedy moments in there. Robin Williams is great with his vocal impressions and his visual gags, but he's also got great range in this film, because obviously there's some emotional moments as well for his character. So yeah, there's a whole good broad range of different performances from him in there, and for everybody else as well. It's just a really nice, fun film. And then on Blu-ray, I got the new edition of Guest House Paradiso, which is the movie spin-off from the TV sitcom Bottom, of course, starring Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson. Not quite as good as their live shows and the TV series, but it's still pretty fun. There's a lot of funny moments in there. It's basically about Richie and Eddie running like the worst hotel in Britain, and the various shenanigans they get up to as a result of that as they try and deal with the guests. It's basically a vehicle just for them to do lots of silly stunts and slapstick scenes and things like that. They're often quite absurd and violent and disgusting as well. So you get Eddie's drunken ride to the hotel on his motorbike to begin with. There's a really elaborate kitchen fight, which is quite fun, and part of that is filmed in reverse to make it work, which is quite interesting to see in the making of material. Richie gets stuck in a female guest's rubber underwear, and there's a man who's hauled up to the ceiling by a fishing hook caught in his nipple ring, and that man's played by Simon Pegg. He's very good in the film as well. And the guests end up projectile vomiting all over the corridor at the end of the film because they've eaten some radioactive fish. So that's the kind of flavour of the film. It's very crude and rude and everything, but it's fun. It's just silly, surreal fun, as Rick and Ade comedy always is. And this new Blu-ray is a limited edition, restricted to only 6,000 copies in the UK. So I decided to pre-order it as soon as it was announced some time back to make sure I get one of them. And it's a new 4K restoration of the film, which I can't really judge if it's any improvement or not over the old one, but it looks and sounds pretty good to me. It's got 5.1 surround sound as well. And there's also an array of extra features too, which is obviously a big draw for a special edition like this. So there's a making of documentary and outtakes from the old DVD, which are all very good. The documentary is very interesting and the outtakes are very funny, and there's trailers in there as well. But also new to this release are some interviews filmed last year and this year, which are very interesting and insightful recollections about making the film, and they all speak with great fondness about working with Rick and Ade as well, as you would. So they talk to actor Simon Pegg, Colin Towns, the composer, the editor Sean Barton, and Tom Brown, the production designer. So they're all well worth listening to. And there's also an image gallery as well, which is okay, nothing exciting, but nice to see anyway. And then there's also a special 40-page booklet included with the set, which is quite interesting to read as well. So yeah, I'm glad I got that for my bottom collection. That's very good. And then moving on to TV, and another Blu-ray I received was the Steelbook edition of Doctor Who Season 1, which looks really nice. And they've got some lovely artwork of the Doctor and Ruby Sunday on the cover. And there's loads and loads of extra features. I worked out there's about 12 hours of extra content, including 3 InVision commentaries, 10 full-length episodes of the Unleashed documentary series, all of the behind-the-scenes clips from YouTube, and some exclusive new ones as well, and the new Tales of the TARDIS episode too. So they've really packed it out properly, which is good. And it's nice to have a physical copy of all this in case stuff gets taken down off iPlayer or YouTube anytime. At least I've got a personal copy. So it's nice to have it all collected together in a set like that. And I also listened to the Doctor Who prom on BBC Radio 3 as well, because I wasn't able to get there in person. I tried to get a ticket, but obviously things like that are so popular, it's really, really difficult to get in there. But I was quite happy listening to it on the radio, and it's going to be on TV over Christmas as well, which is nice. But yeah, it is on BBC Sounds until around 13th of October, if you want to go and listen to it. Because it was really good. It was hosted by Catherine Tate and had the BBC National Orchestra of Wales and the London Philharmonic Choir and some vocalists as well. And it was mainly focused on Murray Gold's music from the show, of course, with compositions from the recent series and the 60th anniversary specials, and a few classic tracks as well from his time on the show in the past. And a medley from Sega Nakanola's era as well for Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. And it was the first Doctor Who prom for 11 years as well, so it was nice to hear a new concert based on that music. So it'd be nice to see the TV edition later in the year. I imagine they'll edit it down slightly, but yeah, it'll be really good to see that because it sounded quite fun, and the little clips and things I've seen online since then have all looked really cool. So yeah, looking forward to seeing that. And then I've also really enjoyed the latest series of Secrets of the London Underground, as per usual. This is where Sidney Holloway and Tim Dunn take us around secret areas of tube stations and other areas that are related to the way the tube network operates. I particularly enjoyed the episode about Paddington, having used that station many, many times to travel to and from the West Country, so I have a particular fondness for it. It's a beautiful station. So we got to see the old mail rail and a storeroom for the Great Western Band and disused elements of the Heathrow Express, that kind of thing. And that episode also looked at Tottenham Court Road, another station I've used quite a lot. It was great to learn a bit about the artworks that cover the walls in that station. There's all sorts going on there. So yeah, that was all really interesting, and lots of other stations were covered as well. Earl's Court and Waterloo, Marble Arch and Lambeth North, Warren Street, Stockwell, Gloucester Road, various other places. And they also got to look at the Underground's control centre as well in its top secret location. Talked about the Docklands Light Railway quite a bit and the Thames Tunnel. And there were some depots, maintenance depots they visited, and they spoke about various cultural highlights of the tube as well, like busking and poetry and things. So there was a nice variety in that series. It was really interesting. So I enjoyed that, and I hope they'll be back for another series in the future. And they've done 4 series now, but there's plenty of scope for more, and they do seem to really enjoy it. So yeah, looking forward to more of that, hopefully. But then the other thing I've really enjoyed over the summer are the Olympics and Paralympics. I think Paris have done a superb job to give them their dues. It's been really kind of exciting and dramatic and moving, and all the different emotions you get from watching all these different people competing. The BBC had limited access to the Olympics again because Discovery Plus hold all the rights for a while. But they did a reasonable job despite their restrictions, with a lot of sporting action across 2 live streams each day and various highlights programmes and online clips. A lot of their clips they've had to take down since for rights reasons, which is a shame. But we did very very well. Team GB won 65 medals, which was very good going. We deserved more as well, as there were some we narrowly missed out on, but 65 is still very respectable, and I enjoyed swimming, diving, cycling, athletics, gymnastics, and all that kind of thing. Some of my favourites like Tom Daly and Noel Williams in the synchronised diving. France's Léon Marchand in the swimming races was fantastic. Katie Shortman and Lizzie Thorpe in artistic swimming. Bryony Page and the USA's Simon Biles in gymnastics. Andy Murray and Dan Evans in the doubles tennis. Alex Yee in triathlon, and various other people. Yeah, there was a lot of interesting action going on there. Channel 4, on the other hand, had all the rights to the Paralympics, so they were able to show absolutely everything, and they really went to town on it. And they filled their schedules on Channel 4 and more for with live sport every single day. And they had highlights programs at the end of it and episodes of the last leg as well. And on their YouTube channel, they had full live streams of all the events every single day, and highlights videos, audio description at the end of it, and various clips as well. And so, yeah, it was really, really comprehensive. And there was accessibility as well. There's some audio description and BSL, and amongst all of that, they had various disabled presenters as well on their presenting team. I mean, Rose Ayling-Ellis had a wonderful partnership with Claire Balding in the afternoons. I really love the pairing of them together. Adair Epitime was also really good, as was Ellie Simmons and various other people. And the last leg was really funny as always as well. So yeah, it was a really great comprehensive coverage. It was nice to have bits of audio description in there as well. They could have kind of perhaps promoted some of the audio description better, like they had audio descriptive commentary on their opening and closing ceremonies on 4/7 with a BSL simulcast of them, but they didn't really publicise that very well, so people didn't really know that was there. And they did talk a bit too much sometimes, perhaps a bit over the music, but it was a lot of useful information, so I'm glad they did that. Yeah, the AD on the main evening coverage as well during the live sports was quite good too, but they also got their commentators to be a bit more descriptive in their commentaries than they would normally do on a TV show. So yeah, that was a bit noticeable sometimes too, and much appreciated. So yeah, Channel 4 put a lot of effort into the coverage. Yes, the adverts got a bit irritating, but then the sponsorship they had from Toyota and Allianz and all the adverts had in between was necessary for them to be able to afford it. And if the BBC aren't prepared to fork out for it, and this is the compromise we need to make. And I'm just glad that we did have so much coverage, because it was genuinely thrilling. And Paralympics GB did extremely well, getting 124 medals, including 49 gold. It's exactly the same number of total medals we had in Tokyo, but with more golds and more silvers and thus fewer bronzes. So it was definitely a better performance. And I loved lots of the competitors we had. Like in the pool, there was Poppy Maskell, Alice Ty and Stephen Clegg. In the cycling, there was Sarah Story and Sophie Unwin. On the track, there was Hannah Cockcroft and Sammy Kinghorn and Ben Sandilands. Dan Pembroke was amazing in the javelin, breaking world records. We had Dave Ellis in the triathlon, and Charlotte Henshaw and Hope Gordon in canoeing, who kind of got really emotional when they were on the podium together, and various other people. It was just so amazing, so many different highlights, special moments and things like that. So yeah, I'm glad there was lots of great coverage, and it'd be interesting to see how LA get on with it in 2028. And that is it. That is all I have to mention for this latest roundup. So I hope you found some bits and pieces of interest in there as per usual. Then coming up, it's pretty quiet really, which is fine by me. The only thing I know that I'm pretty sure is coming up is another Meal with Emily, another one of her PR jobs for her to review. And this latest one is quite local to me, looks quite nice. That should be good. But otherwise, I haven't got any theatre shows booked in September and October at the moment. That could, of course, change. Whenever I say I don't know what's coming up, things then tend to crop up. But my thinking at the moment is that because I've done blog posts on the Olympics and Paralympics, and the Paralympics brought us into September anyway, and it's been quiet in the week since then as well, to the middle of the month. There's probably going to be quiet in the latter half of September as well. So I'm probably going to do a joint September-October favourites in early November. That'll give me a break after doing all those long blog posts anyway. I will still be doing stuff on my blog. I mean, I'm always writing stuff on there, you know that. But probably I won't bother doing another favourites post until early November to cover September and October, because there isn't really much to mention to make it worth doing a September favourites on its own now. I know there's a new series of Taskmaster, for instance, which is the big thing on TV. And there'll be other things I'm planning to watch. There's things I've been recommended to me. There's things I've just got on my to-do list that I want to watch anyway. So I'm not going to be bored, and I'll be going out and about doing various things as per usual. So we'll see what happens. But that's my thinking, that I'll do a joint September-October favourites. But yeah, I hope you have fun, whatever you're getting up to as well. I hope you're doing well. And yeah, I'll leave it there really. There's nothing else to say at the moment. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe as per usual. And I will see you for another video very soon. Bye for now.